Together, please. Could I ask you to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Sampayan.
Here.
Vice Mayor McConnell.
Here.
Council members Ducosta. Here. Malgapo. Here. Meisner. Here. Sunga. Verderaliga. Here.
Okay, item 4 is presentations and commendations. I believe we have a presentation tonight, Madam Clerk.
Yes, this is a presentation by Fuse Executive Fellow Slater Matsky on economic development, marketing, and promotional tools and activity.
Very good. Mr. Matsky, I'm excited to listen to your presentation.
Thank you. Mayor Sampayan, members of council, good evening. I'm Andrea Aus, the Community and Economic Development Director. I'm thrilled to introduce Slater Matsky. He's our Fuse Executive Fellow for the city. He's been working in the Economic Development Department since September of 2016. For those of you that don't recall, Fuse is a nonprofit organization that places mid-career professionals in that are in the private sector into public settings to assist cities. And Slater's been working very hard building a targeted kind of marketing database and tools for us to use to promote the city of Vallejo for investment. I think you'll find his presentation to be very compelling, and I'm very excited about this. He's going to be providing a synopsis of his work that he's been completing, as well as the things he's going to be working on for the rest of his time here for until September of this year. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Slater.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you, Mayor and Council, City Manager, City Clerk, for allowing me this opportunity to meet with you this evening to talk to you about the work that I've been doing since arriving on the scene in October and the roadmap moving forward with some of the tools and resources and some of the plans. So if you'll turn your attention, I have a really brief overview presentation that I would love to walk you through. Please let me know if you can't hear me with the microphone. So just to give another brief introduction, Andrea gave a solid overview of what Fuse Core is. Just to give you a little more background about myself, I had a consulting business for 10 years in Oakland, California, where I worked with early stage, seed stage startups, getting them set up with slingshot capital, institutional backing to help grow. So essentially connecting ideas to finance. Fuse Core, again, like Andrea said, is a nonprofit out of the Bay Area. We have 30 fellows working around the country right now on a variety of different projects. We have 8 fellows with San Francisco, a fellow working with City of New Orleans, also with the City of Seattle. Just briefly to talk about the project scope, as Andrea had previously stated, the goal and design was basically to take a deep dive look at the marketing potential for the City of Vallejo and building out back-end tools and developing resources to help support the initiatives of the city and the community. And so that's what I'd like to present to you tonight. So an overview of the work that I've been doing up to this point. Starting in October, I really dove into the research component, looking at best practices that were done both regionally, statewide, and nationally to really gather as much data as possible about what the best practices were for Office of Economic Development throughout the state, throughout the country, and really tease out some of the core elements, folding into an analytic approach of weighing both the quantitative and qualitative data that I was able to gather through surveys that have been done by site selection organizations, developers, brokerages, things along that line, but really trying to get a general snapshot of everything that's going on with marketing for business attraction and business development for cities. and synthesizing the research and the analysis moves to the action plan. Really keyed in on these three core elements of the value proposition of the city of Vallejo: talent, location, and opportunity. These are core pieces that existing businesses in Vallejo, businesses that might be interested in relocating, businesses that might be interested in starting up here in Vallejo, are looking at these core elements: the talent, the location, and the opportunity. And I found through my research that Vallejo is very well positioned to project out on those three items. So we started by developing tools and resources, working with the city manager's office and working with the Office of Economic Development. One of the key components for my scope of work was to build out a resource platform for the city. So basically, developing a comprehensive database of information based on demographics, site selection, and all the different tools and resources in one central platform, so that anyone currently doing business in the area or interested in coming to the area could drive to this site to be able to gather the information that they need to make an informed decision about coming to Vallejo. So we've also developed some secondary platforms as well that focus more on promoting specific sites to site selection organizations. On a sort of a back of the house element, we're also implementing a client relationship management software called Executive Pulse that will allow for a more cohesive communication channel between the different divisions within the city. So for example, if there's an inquiry in planning, that information can be entered, the person's information, their contact information, and then they can send an alert to someone within Economic Development Division so that everybody knows what the touch points and what the contact points are for inquiries and people that are engaging with the city. Again, really looking at data, tracking, and analytics. I think that there's a key balance between data and stories. You need data to tell stories, and you need those stories to back up the data. So that's part of the core elements that we're looking at. And then also taking a really strong approach at building up the multimedia presence and resources that the city has, from a digital component, videos, hard collateral, soft collateral, to really increase that footprint when we're launching campaigns. At this time, I would just like to give you a brief overview of the website that we were able to build. So this is choosevallejo.com, and this is a powerhouse site that has basically every intelligence component that an existing business, an interested business, a site selector, developer, a broker would want to find in order to make an actionable and informed decision on whether to grow their business in Vallejo, to relocate to Vallejo. So you can see sort of a brief overview here. It has the 5 intelligence components, 6 intelligence components, broken down into sites, demographics, businesses, mapping, comparison tool, and a community function as well. Going back to that core value proposition of the talent, the location, and the opportunity, you can see some of these high-level and drilled-down metrics for what it is when we talk about talent in the area, and what is it that we talk about when we speak of the location being a value, and what is it that we talk about when we speak about the opportunity that exists here. And when you really dig into it, you can see that Vallejo is uniquely positioned to be a very a prime location for business development, business growth. Just scroll you through just to give you sort of an overview of the site. It's broken down into a calendar, news and updates. It all channels back to the city's existing website, so you can get more information about any of these specific sites, project sites and opportunity clusters, business development resources. So again, the design and the goal here was to create a hub that we could drive people to and direct people towards when they want to gain the best actionable data on the city of Vallejo. So I'll just walk it back up here and show you some of the components of the site. So what we've done actually is we've incorporated a live property database So this contains all of the prospective sites that are currently being promoted both on the private and the public sector. So again, you can get detailed information about, this is the Northern Gateway Triangle up on Sonoma and Lincoln. Shows you the pad breakdowns, the acreage. You can get a real nice zoomed out overhead to see some of the existing support businesses that are in the area. And there's the raw land. What this allows for also is that you get to see the general information, the contact information for the management company, contact point here at the city, nearest interstate, all this hard data. And really a beautiful part of this as well is that you can pull comprehensive reports from the website and then use those to proactively market the sites themselves as well. So you have labor force data, and this is updated quarterly, so we use National Labor Bureau statistics as well as some third-party applied graphics solutions and a few others to harvest the best information. But you'll see it's got updated labor force information, demographic information, consumer spending, wages by industry, businesses, estimated sales, number of employees in each of the specific target markets, talent pool. This is a key component for site selectors and brokers and developers and businesses, seeing what is our talent pool like, what is our potential labor shed. And then we also have it linked to the residential market as well, so you can get live information that's linked to Zillow. I believe some of our real estate people are familiar with, but gives median condo value, housing affordability data, and then you can actually link externally to the Zillow site, and you can see all of the existing residential real estate that's available in the city of Vallejo. Let me back it up real quick, and again, all of these intelligence points can just easily be clicked into a PDF. If you'd like to present that to an internal party or an outside party, there's a lot of ways to go with packaging that information. Again, just to dig a little bit deeper into some of the other intelligence tabs, we have demographics. You can build off of demographic data, consumer expenses, labor force. You can also drill down on individual businesses. So this is a really interesting function. You can look by industry. So let's say we want to look at administrative support and waste management and remediation services. And these are all subclassified off the NAICS list. And that shows you scatter plots around the city of where those businesses are currently operating. It also tells you the number of businesses, total revenue, number of employees that are working in that sector. You can also pull up the specific business itself. So Hall's All Recycling tells you some basic information about the company, how many employees, and then you can also click to Street View and it'll take you to a Google map and show you from the ground level. You can also do a business search. So you can say, let's look at Starbucks. And let's apply the filter. It shows you all the Starbucks that are currently operating in Vallejo. Tells you the number of businesses, tells you their revenue, tells you the number of employees. And then you can also click on the specific location and get more detailed information about employment and sales estimates, things along those lines. But you can do it for any business in Vallejo. And again, from a business development standpoint, from a business attraction standpoint, when people were canvassing the area, this is the type of information that site selectors need. And they were having to pull from a lot of different sources until we were able to create this platform where everything is concentrated and hubbed in right here. Let me just walk you through some of the other tabs just real quickly, just to give you an overview. So you can do map layers also. So you can make heat maps if you want to look at. I know we have the fiber project rolling out. So if you click on broadband, you can subdivide to see where cable, DSL, fiber, fixed wireless, mobile wireless currently exists for the city, and it'll make a heat map. So let's look at DSL, for example. That's the coverage for the city. You'll see some gaps there. But again, this is very useful and very critical information to have when rolling out projects like a citywide fiber network. So that's mapping. And you can filter by energy, geography, points of interest, post-secondary education, anything that you could possibly want to find out about the city of Vallejo. And this is a community tool as well. I mean, this is beneficial to higher education institutions to be able to pull labor statistics, demographic information. But again, the utility and function for prospective businesses and site selectors and brokerage community, this is the type of information that exists. And having done a canvas nationally of the types of resource hubs that other cities are using, we now have Vallejo at the top of the heap. We're basically the gold standard now for what this is doing. Just the comparison tab. This is another function of the site. So we can compare Vallejo against any other city in the country, and we can see how do we stack up. We can look at population, sex, age distribution, ethnicity distribution, race, total households. You can look at consumer expenditures, so you can see how much Vallejo spends on entertainment in comparison to Richmond. We're like twins, it looks like. Yeah. So and then it breaks it down even farther. I mean, it's broken down into video and audio equipment, recreational equipment, and supplies. So you get you can really drill into this. So if I'm in this sector, if I'm in this industry and I'm looking at consumer spending, consumer consumption, I can get actionable data on this to make a decision about where I want to expand or start a business. Goofy things like apparel, where there we are, twins again almost. And so you have Richmond here, Vallejo here. So anyways, we can do that for any element, including labor force. So we can do total employees by establishment type. So you can see where the workforce for any other city in the country is allocated, where their sectors are, where they're strong, where we have competitive advantages, and again, it's fantastic as far as business attraction and helping the businesses that currently exist. So this is just a community profile. So this is a snapshot too that can be used to share through multimedia, print out a PDF report, send off to anyone. And this is just some high-level information about what's going on here in Vallejo. We've got total population of 122,000. We have the gender breakdown, age distribution, median age, educational attainment, labor force. And just to remind you, we intentionally built this site to be targeted and focused at business. That was my mandate bringing me in here to work on this project. So if it does seem a little niche, it's by design. Again, total employees, it's just deep, deep, deep. This is a bit of a goofy data point because I got a funky read that says that somehow we jumped up to 22,000 jobs in healthcare and social services. So again, I think it was W.C. Fields said never work with dogs or children or animals and children, and I would add technology as well. It can create its own set of problems, especially when working with data. But again, tells you the employee breakdown for the businesses here in Vallejo. You can see almost 70% of our businesses have between 1 and 4 employees. Income and spending. Again, go on and on. And I just wanted to show you this new resource that we have developed. This will be the spearhead of our campaigns as we launch to really do profile elevation for City of Vallejo. Key component of this website as well, and the necessity of driving traffic here is that we have the analytics and the tracking on the back end. So through a reverse IP lookup, which is totally legal, it's what Google does, there's no cookie that's embedded on anybody's browser, totally legitimate. We can see any organization or business or higher ed institution, any organization that looks at our website, we can see how long they spent on the website, what pages they looked at, what properties they were looking at, what sheets they were downloading, what documents they were downloading. So it allows for us to be proactively engaging with some of these interests. And it's not live right now while it is online, but it's just been passively getting pulled into the hopper, and it's really interesting to see the type of people, both regionally and nationally, that are starting to look at Vallejo through this website. Some tech companies down on the peninsula and some others as well. And they're pulling reports and they're getting engaged. So let me just go back to the presentation, and I'll just take you through what we've got designed for our actual outreach campaigns moving forward. So campaigns, I mean, it's great if you build a tool, but if nobody knows about it, it sort of defeats the purpose. So we're really looking at targeted outreach. So 3 campaigns, first launching March 1st, second launching June 1st, and the third launching in early September. And this will be a targeted outreach, so we're going to really drill into site selectors, developers, businesses, brokers, to kickstart the conversation and really raise the profile of Vallejo, because through my research I found that we have neighbors that are less than an hour drive time away that think Vallejo is next to Eureka. And it's frightening to get some of that. I mean, it's great. It's good data to collect, but that means that we need to be projecting and sending the message outward. So targeted outreach to specific sectors as well. So looking at advanced manufacturing, tech, looking at craft beverage that we already seem to have caught a little bit of a fire over at the Wet Mile on Mare Island. And really finding out ways, to do with the first campaign, a real blanket approach so that we're spreading the message as far as and wide as possible, and then doing some recalibration as we go into campaign 2, and then building on top of that as well. So it'll be a mixed media approach. We're looking at print. We're running a full page ad with an online digital component in Site Selection magazine for their March-April issue. This is also their Governor's Cup issue, so it's their most read issue of the year. And this is the industry magazine for site selectors. This goes international as well. It's at all their trade conferences, everywhere that they're repping. So we'll have a nice full page, beautiful layout, driving traffic to choose Vallejo with the online digital support through their site as well. And that's part of this first campaign. Again, conferences and trade shows, I've been working with the team to really scope out about 20 to 30 events over the next 6 to 9 months, and making sure that we can have physical body at all of those trade shows and conferences, so that we can be telling the story of Vallejo and telling it to the right audience. And again, another component of that is hosted events, looking at broker tours, tapping into our network and to our allies here to be able to put on some of these events, these targeted events, to bring people to Vallejo so that they can actually see how beautiful the city is and how fantastic it is to live here and work here. Moving forward, I would be remiss without mentioning the sustainability plan, because for me, I'm here for 12 months, and it's a failure if the minute I walk out the door, everything was just encapsulated in that 12 months of my time of service. So this is something that's constantly evolving as I gather more information, as we're launching the campaigns, as we're piloting stuff, trying, failing, learning from it. But having that all captured in a very comprehensive strategic plan that the city can then have as a resource to refer back to in the future. A big part of this is the marketing playbook. So we'll have a playbook for the city to also refer to. Okay, if we want to do a social media campaign, let's take a look at it, and it'll have a step-by-step sort of protocol and procedure for how to run something like that. All of our resources, everything will be contained in that playbook. And then also a roadmap. Marketing is really tricky because conditions change so rapidly. If I said I was going to try and scope out a 5-year roadmap, it would be fool's folly, because conditions would change within 12 to 16 months, and there'd have to be recalibration. But my goal is to have sort of a 6, 12, and 18-month roadmap, have the teams completely briefed on how to move forward, and so it'll be a passing of the baton, and there will be full continuity for the time that I'm here, the work that I've been doing, and the team will be able to continue with the efforts. So that's basically it. Thank you very much for letting me spend my Valentine's Day with you. My wife lives in San Diego, so, and she's named Andrea, so I have a surrogate tonight, I guess. That's what's happening. And I'd just like to leave it, I'm more than happy to follow up directly with each and every one of you, and I say that to the community at large as well. I'd love to talk to people that are wanting to get engaged, wanting to tell a story, wanting to give me their insights and perspectives. A real capper for our marketing campaign that I forgot to mention is we're looking at doing a big 26-page insert in the San Francisco Business Times in September. We're going to time that with the San Francisco Structures event, and it'll get really wide exposure for the city, and we'll be able to talk about some of the really interesting things that are happening here. And it's a great way to put that piece in play as we move forward. And again, I'm available for any questions you might have. I know you've got about 17 hours of council left this evening, so feel free to throw anything at me you want right now. Or you know where to find me. I'm in the city manager's office. So
Well, we hope we don't go 17 hours, Mr. Matsky, but
well,
thank you.
maybe it won't be that short, right?
Yeah, maybe it won't be that short. Comments, questions from council? Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. Can you tell me who and how is this going to be updated on an ongoing basis?
Yep. So we have the, one thing I've noticed from being inside of a city for the last 4 months, I realized that resource constraint, time constraint, and bandwidth is very limited. So my entire goal and design of these tools and resources is to take as much of the heavy lifting off the staff as possible. So for the most part, they're very automated. It's kind of plug and play. For example, the property database is updated about every 30 days. There are just minor tweaks that need to be done as far as updating square footage, removing properties from the market. It literally can be done in about 5 or 10 minutes, and an executive assistant can handle that. Again, as part of the sustainability plan is making sure that key players on the inside of the city are trained and capable to be able to continue on with the work and with the projects. But by design, there's not a lot of heavy lifting with this.
Okay, and are we going to need to allocate a budget position for this ongoing person once you're gone?
No. And again, I'm planning on coming back and if you'll have me again, obviously, in June to give you an update on how the first campaign went, how the pilot went, and sort of our recalibration moving forward with the second campaign. And then in September, I'd love to do a final debrief. And at that point, I can talk to you about my specific recommendations on how best to carry forth.
Okay, and when we adopt the general plan, will that be cross-referenced in here with links to the specific portions of the general plan that are applicable?
We have widget capability from our website to embed in the city's website. We can do it cross-platform, cross-site, so reciprocity is a key component of it. So the general plan can be embedded into our site and vice versa.
That's very, very, very promising tool, and I'm sure we'll all be spending a lot of hours on this thing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Magapa.
Thank you, Mayor. Won't take too much time. We do have a big agenda.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation. Very impressive. These are minor stuff. You kind of featured colleges in Vallejo, but we also have charter schools, which could be very attractive to young families.
Sure.
There's one being built next to the post office. I was wondering if those could be included or somehow linked. The city incorporated in 1868. All we have left are infills. We don't have acres and acres of available property, and I'm glad to see that the triangular piece. I happen to be familiar with that property. But are you able to right now pull the Cook property?
The Cook property, yeah. Actually,
And would it tell us if it's for sale, for lease, and how much?
Yeah. With the sites,
Yeah.
and again by design. Actually, I don't have Cook in here because it's currently under contract.
That's fine. But would it show zoning?
I'm sorry?
Would it show the zoning for land use? You pull up a property, does it show mixed-use commercial or light industry or?
Yeah. Let me show you a building. So for example, so let's go back to good old Railroad Avenue at 8th Street. So it tells you the building details, number of floors, 1, building class C, year built, number of parking spaces, whether the status of being for sale or for lease, how many square feet, when it was last updated, 11/23. Again, we have the ability to import we can do a full data dump on all of these individual properties. What I've by design, and again, I'm open to input, is that I'm trying to tease a little bit here. You know, I want people to be able to grab a little bit of information and get interested, and then contact us, or contact Lennar, or contact one of the property owners to engage them and start that conversation. Again, if I see a company because of the reverse IP lookup that's looking at this site specifically, then I know that it's probably good to proactively engage them, start a conversation, you know, lay the foundation for a relationship, and then talk to them about properties that fit what they're looking for. So again, this is a tool to engage. But yeah, all of that can be imported. We can go as deep as we want. I mean, you have an info sheet that I think I left you. It's a 2-page in color. Tells you all the different components if you want to refer to that. But the one thing this website doesn't have is a lack of data. It's got 2,000 plus different data points that you can filter in a million different ways and configurations, and with the heat maps too. So to answer your question in a shorter fashion, yes, it can do whatever you want.
And when you come back in June, will you be able to share with us the outreach piece of it, how successful it was?
Sure, yeah.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what I was saying is the beauty of the site and driving everyone towards the site is that we're able to capture all that information on the back end. So we're building data, we're filtering that into the CRM system that we're implementing here for the city, and then we're also able to proactively engage with them. So we know who's looking at us, we know when they're looking at us, and what they're interested in. So yeah, we can start pulling those reports.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember DuCosta.
Thank you, Mayor Sampine. Very excited about this tool. It looks great. It's very important. I mean, as realtors know, if you don't have your product exposed to those that are interested in investing, you're not going to get the investment. So having that as your first step is obviously key. I was wondering, how are the businesses pulled? Like, how do you get the businesses on there, on that link? And the reason I asked is because I was playing with it a little bit, and I did food manufacturing, and it pulled up a brewery from American Canyon saying that it was in Vallejo, so I was just curious.
Were they like sort of on the border maybe?
Well, it was showing it on the map as kind of in central Vallejo. Okay. But when I Googled, because I had never heard of Junction Brewery, and so when I pulled it up on Google, it said it was in American Canyon. So. Okay.
And again, I mean, with something like this, with all the nooks and crannies, information like that, I can make corrections if needed. So take notes of those types of things, and I'll follow up with you independently to be able to clean the data a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So it's obviously a ton of data to go through just on the businesses. So I'm curious how it's pulling that information, because I certainly am not going to have the time to look through every business.
Sure. But it's instances like that the more engaged the community is, and when we find those flaws, we can be tweaking and updating. Again, it uses reputable data pools, so like the NAICS list and.
And what list was that? I hadn't.
It's like the national. It's the classification system for businesses, basically. Okay. So yeah, something like that I can definitely look into. I mean, awesome. We're digging through a lot of layers, and so when we find bad data, we can fix it. But that's the beauty of it too, is that there's not a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
We can change that, update it, and get it fixed within 15 minutes. And
yeah, awesome.
It's a low barrier to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, and I definitely am impressed with the whole the comprehensiveness of it, that's very exciting. The property data that I was able to pull up as far as the offerings and opportunities, that looked all correct on the ones that I pulled up so far anyhow.
And it's great too, we can actually give access to realtors.
Right.
So that I can give
Or
you access to
commercial brokers and
commercial brokers, residential or commercial, residential, any of the associations. You can get access to an account, so you can upload your properties and include presentation packets, multimedia, videos,
Awesome.
anything like that as well. So again, when this goes live in March, closely communicating and collaborating with the real estate community to make sure that they have buy-in and they're engaged.
Awesome.
But also, I mean, the beauty of it is that we can pull all the information regardless of their buy-in. So it's not contingent on, this doesn't make or break by having certain individuals become a stakeholder in this, because we are able to run, operate, manage, and update as needed.
That's great. And then, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, and the importance of having an online presence like this resource. I mean, the industry statistic for site selection, 97% of site selectors do an online search before, as action one, before they request any additional information. So having a strong online presence is vital to establish these connections and really kickstart some conversations.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Vallejo is not as present on CoStar or LoopNet as I would like to see, for sure. So having this is vital for us, really.
And from an SEO standpoint, like search engine optimization, having a site like this, getting a lot of buy-in on it, getting a lot of hits, it will bump this up very shortly to the top of a search query through Google. So someone will type in, Vallejo, California, and they'll find this resource. And so that's there's a tremendous amount of value to having people utilize this.
And then you talked about a couple of different aspects of the tools that are reminding me of aspects of moving Solano forward too. So I don't know, are you looking at that dovetailing within each other and supporting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, EDC, Solano EDC has been a close partner with us. The Executive Pulse, the CRM platform, is actually something that was put into place
the biggest part I was wondering about.
By our EDC partners. So, my own personal perspective is that you need to build stakeholders and you need to get collaborative and synergistic connections between other organizations, because there's no sense in everybody operating in their own orbits and getting siloed. So going to those monthly meetings with the Solano EDC and talking to Sandy Person and Patrick McGuire and the team out there in the other cities and learning from what they're doing. What have they tried? What's failed? What's worked? And again, sharing information and collaborating. But yeah, the CRM platform was a tool. It was my recommendation when I first got here, and then I went to the first EDC meeting and they said, hey, we're launching a CRM platform. So it was a fantastic direction to go in. So.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to brag about it to the League of Cities. So.
Well, I'll tell you this: nobody else in Solano County has a website like this. So,
or a lot of the Bay Area. So, yeah.
I talked to my Fuse fellows in San Francisco, and I was running them through the beta. They said San Francisco doesn't have this. Their ED division doesn't have this resource in one centralized platform. So, not that we want to be San Francisco.
Mr. Keene?
We don't. I just want to add that in addition to the county's linkage to our site, the state treasurer, Don Chang, has just introduced something that was introduced at a conference I was at last week, a statewide portal for people who want to investigate California. And each city can use that to the extent you want to, and it will link directly to our website. So this tool will become a link at the state level. So you can see now we've very quickly, with one website, we have found a way to link to the region and up to the state level on economic development. 3 months ago, we didn't have anything like it. So,
I mean, and really, what you
forget
have
the
here,
name of that.
You have a case study for how to do responsible, proactive engagement and place marketing for a city, and the amount of response that you're going to get on something like this, and again, the tool to the community. We just met with Cal Maritime this afternoon, and walked them through the site, and they were blown away by that. They said, you know, our students can use this. So this isn't just about business. This is a resource for the community, which again is by design, and that's what the team asked for, and that's what staff has been giving me the guiding hand to make sure that it's not just outward facing and you know, looking at businesses.
Councilmember Sunga.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the other council members have said, but I know it's just a platform, but I can see that it's one of the best we had, not only in the city of Vallejo, but the county. And it's good to attract business. I think this is a start of showing the public that we're not anti-business, that we're trying to invite businesses to come to Vallejo. But as a platform, it's only good as the people that operates it. Mm-hmm. We have to be able to as staff, to be able to actively participate in targeted outreach, attending economic seminars, and getting in touch with the business people who wants to expand, and hopefully they'll choose Vallejo based on this platform. Mm-hmm. They're not going to do it unless we actively participate as a city in inviting them to come over.
Absolutely.
So it's very important that we use this platform to invite businesses to come over to our city, but we have to do it beyond when you leave, sir.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you'll get a big impact to our staff in ensuring that they will be proactive in the targeted outreach that you started, and I appreciate that. I also want to dwell on what Councilmember Magapo stated about schools. A year ago, we were proclaimed as a college town. And if there's a way that we can include the colleges and universities we have in this platform, I think that will help in some sense. For example, saying that California Maritime is the highest paid graduates in the entire USA. That's something we can brag about.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we should be able to include in this platform to make it more attractive to big businesses who are looking for education opportunities in the city that they're going to as well.
Absolutely.
So,
and under if you look at the talent and location, we highlight the local technical career trainings for Maritime, Toro, and the Solano Community College. And then also we hit on the fact that Vallejo is a confluence of 5 colleges from the area, and that within an hour drive time there are 50 colleges and universities. So again, it's a very unique proposition, a value proposition for Vallejo, that essentially there's a mother brain that exists here in the area, and that's the type of information that we need to be transmitting out, because we do have talent here. And we have a labor shed of, you know, almost 3 million people that are within a 1 hour drive time as well. So that exists, and that's what people want to grab onto, and that's the story, the narrative that we should be telling, and that we are telling through a portal like this.
yeah, and it's going to be helpful to realtors like me and Pippin and Councilmember Malgapo. Now we don't have to be an MLS member to get information out. But I think it's great. Including Zillow is there is important, and for possible businesses to come over. And I thank you very much. I hope staff will run with it and proactively use the platform in targeting businesses to come over to our town.
Well, they already are. I mean, a lot of the reasons why it's taken this shape is because of the direct input and working closely with the staff in the ED division, planning and public works, as well as with the city manager's office. So this is a joint project.
Yeah. Thank you very much again, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Meissner.
Thank you, Mayor. This is so exciting. Someone mentioned it in goal setting, so I looked around. It's so exciting. It really puts us light years ahead of not only ourselves, where we came from, but everybody else, as you've mentioned. And I know it's business focused, but we also have a really great entertainment community. We've got the Empress Theater. I see that there's a way to link to a calendar that's on the economic development website. I'm just curious, that's probably maybe stage 2, but how the city might engage in having events. We're always looking for one place. I know Visit Vallejo does it, but sometimes it's got more things than just Vallejo, and we're always looking for one calendar. I know the arts community has created one. Gretchen Zimmerman actually built a website. So I guess as you're collecting all this data from everywhere else, maybe that's something that this could do, is collect data from all these different sites that have calendars and put it all in one area.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Yes,
Great.
the calendar function was actually a component that Angelina Bella built out, and that's the goal, is to have this be, again, a calendar hub for not just ED-focused events that are going on, but a broader calendar, so that you can look at this and get a snapshot of how vibrant Vallejo is and how many things are going on in a given week, in a given month. So yeah, I mean, it's really tuned. It's in beta mode right now. That's why it's blank, but it will be populated. Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I'm so excited.
Sure.
Councilmember Verliga.
Thank you, Mayor. This is quite impressive. Very, very impressed. I've never seen anything like it, really. Like you said, we may be the first city in the Bay Area that has actually even thought of this. So that's wonderful. So, a couple of things. Tell me if how the GIS mapping component, I know that we talked about that as in our goal setting, how is it going to intertwine with this? I know parts of it already in there.
Sure.
Can you speak on it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an individual GIS project, but it has full integration capabilities. It pulls from the same data sources.
Yeah.
So this operates as a standalone, but it's the same information that's going to be shared by the other GIS platforms as well. GIS Planning, who's doing a lot of the back end on this, they've been under contract with the city for a couple of years now, and they've worked closely with them. So it's a known quantity. And Andrea and I have been making sure that there's symmetry between the GIS functionality of this and then the other projects that are going as well.
Okay, good. The other question I have is, if I was just looking at the demographic data, which is something I'm very much interested in, what's interesting from what I saw is the millennials and the Generation X is almost as large in terms of percentage and population as the baby boomers.
Sure.
So for those out there who want to open a business, really that's a huge consumer group that they can tap into. That more than 30% of Vallejo's population is either Generation Xers who now have work and have careers and have income, and the millennials who are now starting to find a job and establish careers. So they do have income. It's the baby boomers that have disposable income, but they're always going to be there and needing other services in the future, such as more travel and leisure now that they are on the brink in the planning retirement. So those are for businesses out there. That's really something that they need to look at, because of course housing is still very affordable in Vallejo.
Well, here's something else to show you too, just to build off of, you were talking about the age.
Yeah.
So let's do a filter for 65 and up, and let's map that. Here what we have now is a heat map that shows you where the concentrations are for 65 and older in Vallejo, and you can break it down into more distinct parcels as well. So you can see where in the city those that are 65 and older are living, and you can drill down to almost a parcel level as well.
Yeah, that's really very, very helpful.
Sure, absolutely.
Then my other last point is that as we are going to be get exposed to to the state and to the country, so when businesses come in, my question is, do we have the staff capacity to entertain and to help and provide the support necessary for businesses that come in here, and for them to and let them know that they were open for business, we're business friendly, we're going to take you through the process if they are indeed planning to open a business, that is going to be available to them, meaning staff. I know we only have 6 people on our economic development department, and if we are to move towards economic development, that is going to be a priority, or will be a priority.
I mean, I know Andrea can speak to it, but just from my own perspective, I've been communicating very closely with planning and making sure that any potential inquiry that comes in through this portal, that someone within planning is notified as well. And then again, once we have the CRM platform in place, we'll really be able to manage those leads and manage those touch points. So I think a balance of technology and staff and having a trained and equipped staff, I think is a vital component of being able to do. But again, it's a little above my pay grade to talk.
Yeah, because we're hoping that, they're going to come in and call and contact you, all via email, by phone, et cetera, and through the website.
Yeah.
So want to make sure that staff is prepared and trained
Right.
to how to respond, whether the business is 2 or 3 employees or if it's 50 and above.
Absolutely. It's a very good
Type of
question.
company.
And something that we definitely have been strategizing about, because once we do the rollout, we do expect to get quite
Exactly.
a
We're going
bulk
to get a lot of inquiries, yes.
through. And so where are we going to funnel those, and what are they going to do? What is the tree of decisions, and who will be getting these calls? So we have been working very hard to establish protocols for when we do get the bulk of the inquiries, which we assume are going to be within the first 10 days after the
And
large
it's really,
rollout.
Thank you. And it's important that those protocols are established at the very beginning so that when a business comes in, that they're not misled or they're given, oh yeah, we're going to work with you, and then we don't want at the end of a whole long process that they're, oops, sorry. We don't want that, because we want to make sure that we give them the right information and the right kind of support from staff, because it's a very competitive market out there. It's not just Vallejo that they're going to be looking at, but we're hoping that they will look at our city and that we will provide all the support necessary so that the business that they plan to open will come to fruition, because it will provide jobs, revenue, et cetera, and a tax base that this city would need to fund our public safety, which is an issue that's been out there, and a lot of our constituents have been concerned about funding public safety. Thank you.
Mr. Metzke, well done. Very, very well done. Excuse me. I really applaud your efforts. When I had first heard about your program and your intent, I was really excited. You have not disappointed. Doesn't look like any member of this council.
Well, I still have 8 months left, so.
Oh, okay. So we will be watching you closely. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with your June stats. I really want to see what you've derived from it being online and being live. I think every one of us up here has been doodling on the site to see what we can find. There's a lot of stuff. No, we don't do that. Noodling. Noodling. Mr. King, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was Measure B funding, correct? So, yeah, Measure B funds at work. Money well spent. Again, thank you very much for your presentation. Very well done. We're very impressed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to connecting with you again.
Okay.
And I'm in the city manager's office. I'm available anytime. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the first community forum. Anyone wishing to address the council on any matter for which an opportunity to speak is not provided on the agenda and which is within the jurisdiction of the council to resolve is requested to submit a completed speaker's card to the city clerk. When called upon, each speaker should step up to the podium, state his or her